So, since everyone living on this arguably round planet has built a Holy Grail sorceress already, I thought I'm going to get on that train, and thus today we are going to set up my very own magic finding sorceress. So here in this mini playthrough I will be using Plugy, which is a mod that allows me to have infinite stash space and a shared stash. It also allows me to have infinite respecs and to build ladder-only rune words in single player, and I will be taking advantage of all of those things. Just to be clear though, this particular mini playthrough will feature me just setting up my magic finding sorceress, that is to say, I will clear hell with her. Later, I will use her to find various items for my characters with whom farming can just be a pain. There is no incentive for me to find every item per se, especially not in this particular mini playthrough, otherwise it would easily take around 4 years to make. As for the sorceress herself, she's going to be a firebolt sorceress in the beginning and then going to be transitioning into blizzard later. The reason for this is, I don't know, I just have not played around with this kind of sorceress, so I just wanted to try it out. Den of Evil was pretty standard fare, except here I did not have the luxury of AoE with charged bolt and thus had to snipe down monsters with firebolt. This is my main skill at the moment and I will be putting skill points into it. With that, I went to kill Bloodraven next. This fight was supremely frustrating since, as mentioned before, my area of effect is non-existent and girls like Bloodraven just love to run around sorks like me, and it is very irritating. Thankfully, there is no method to her madness, and thus she eventually herself walked into a lot of firebolts that I fired and died. My AoE problems though continued in Tristram as well. Here there was a shaman pack which I really wanted to kill since they give decent experience. For that I had to navigate through and try to snipe them out one by one, whereas if I had had charged bolt at this point, I would have just let that fly without even thinking about it, and most of the minions along with the boss would have died. The fact that I was not able to damage the minions though is what came to bite me, since they all attacked me at once, and with the sorceress's pathetic hit recovery, there wasn't much I could do here other than peace out. At least for my trouble, I got an FCR ring as a reward for saving Kane, so I guess that is something at least. Something hilarious though is that I literally couldn't kill the Countess with this sorceress. I mean, I could have, but I already had to drag her minions out and kill them one by one, but she herself is fire enchanted. Thus I hired a mercenary with cold arrows to go and defeat her. Just goes to show you how much the skills matter in this game. Thankfully at level 12 though I got a big buff in them. Now I could put a point into the much more devastating fireball. This thing is kinda like going exploding arrow from fire arrow on a boson. It adds a nice AoE effect when the fireball explodes and just does generally more damage than the firebolt does. Gas potions definitely help out against the Countess immensely, even though our sorceress throws like a complete girl. I mean, I had never seen a sorceress throw anything before and now I know why. Anyways, my Countess farming in the end yielded the following rune words. First is the obligatory stealth. If you've been playing this game for any amount of time, you already know that this is one of the best armors starting out, especially for a caster, since it adds that 25 FCR and 25 FHR. And run walk is nice too, till you get teleport. Also making a comeback is the leaf staff, +3 to fire skills. Yep, don't think I need to say anything else in favor of this weapon. This will just add a lot of damage to my attacks at level 19 onwards. For now though, I just equipped a 10 FCR wand that I bought from Agara and went to kill Andariel. Even though I had a point in static field at this point, I did not think that I would need to use it since that would involve getting close to Andariel, which can be dangerous on its own, but I could just snipe her down effectively from a distance anyways. So yeah, Fireball plus minus 50 resistance is equal to a dead-end Dario, nice and quick. Also nice was the fact that I got my second FCR piece in Far Oasis. This is always an important part for a sorceress to find, since with stealth and a 20 FCR wand, you can reach the 60 FCR breakpoint with this, which obviously allows for fast teleporting and increased DPS. Something interesting that I did in my build, which you might notice, is that I put a point into Frost Nova, the next level I gained. This was more for defensive utility rather than offensive prowess. This is especially useful while being surrounded by a bunch of minions where you have the option to slow them down and then position your sorceress in such a way where she can fire fireballs at them safely. Frozen Armor also does that, but I like to use that as a failsafe, and Frost Nova gives you greater control, which is why I invest a point into it. As far as the rest of Act 2 goes, yeah, I did that thing again where I forgot to record literally the rest of it, including the Duriel fight, due to which I am doing something that probably has never been done before, and that's a Duriel run. But hey, those are the sacrifices I make every day for y'all. I was level 18 here and was able to teleport to the chamber, and as far as the fight goes, besides the obligatory thawing potions, one thing that I used was a mercenary. He acts as a useful meat shield to tank Duriel's wrath while I static him down to very low health. He did attack me in the end here, but I was able to take them decently well due to my buffed cold res, and Fireball finished him off quickly. Act 3 is where things generally start going south for my characters, and my sorceress is no exception. Especially considering how frail she is, the flare jungle can be a little too much to handle, especially given that you are still trying to get accustomed to teleporting. Now of course I say all that since I died like a bunch of times here. Flares with physical damage and shamans with fire damage are brutal, and the casualties were pretty much expected on my side. The good thing is that by this point I had leveled up to 19 and could equip the leaf staff, so things that I could take down like Storm Tree, I was able to with relative ease. Another one on that list was the entire Travincle. Here I had some difficulties, especially with all that fire damage coming my way from the Hydras, and the one fire enchanted council member he took a while to kill, but things went down pretty smoothly overall. The same can be said about the Mephisto fight, yet just in reverse. Yeah, look at how much freaking damage that one lightning attack did. Mephisto in normal does not hold back. Your resistances are never that good while facing him, and he really makes you pay. My goal here was to get close to him and static him, which was why I was taking a lot of damage straight to my face, and which eventually led to my death. However, my Sork stormed back in there like a real feminist and it almost got destroyed again, but she did manage to finish him off once and for all. Act 4 starts off a little rough since it introduces pit lords, which are naturally resistant to fire. This highlights a big weakness of Fireball and fire damage in general, and how it starts to fall off kind of at the end of normal. Although you do have AoE damage, you really don't feel it quite like with Nova, since your AoE only activates around monsters that you hit with Fireball and not around a fixed radius like Nova. Due to this, you can get into some real sticky situations like this one. Also with this girl, I did not really level up at Serena like I usually do, and I was paying for it here with reduced overall damage. This struggle carried over to Chaos. Here you can't touch Grand Vizier at all, and thus you have to hire a mercenary to get him. I mean, you can help him out, you can use static field, but I just decided to loiter around, kind of like the Zon does. Also like the Zon, I was very scared to fight Infector, but unlike her, the Sorceress has Frost Nova and Static Field, which helps a ton. The fight can still be a mess since their Infernos do a lot of damage, but Static with increased range can help to get Infector down to Fireball KO range. Decise was easy because he is so gosh dang frail, and Diablo was not because you are so gosh dang frail as a sorceress. All he wants to do is fry your face off with his lightning hose attack, and getting close to him to static field might lead to a situation similar to this. After you get through almost all his HP with static though, keeping your distance and killing him with fireball is not that hard. The journey to get to Frozentine is pretty hard though, that is to say that Moon Lords are OP and I hate them, and also they resist fire attacks, and yeah, I died to them. Frozentine himself isn't honestly that brutal since he does go down to fire damage. His immunity is to cold, which will definitely trouble me in the future, but who cares about the future, am I right? Especially when you gotta deal with the past, and yes, that's my way to say that the ancients were next. The plan here was simple. Use the mercenary as meat shield and blast away with fireball. Honestly, I'm looking back at these clips and face-bombing because I didn't use static field again, which is why this fight took way longer than it should have. Madoc fell first, but Korlik took his sweet time. After he also went down, I finally got my wits about me and used static field against Talik to bring him down real quickly, and then Fireball was able to finish him off as well with the mercenary. From there I went to Bale, and wave 4 and 5 were the main highlights here since they are both pretty tough to kill. However, I was determined and used Frost Nova and Static Field against both of them to get them to an HP where I could finish them off with Fireball. Even with that, it took a long ass time since these guys are naturally fire resistant, and as it seems, like Bale just got bored in the middle and straight up went into the throne room while there were monsters still in his sights. Yes, that's not supposed to happen. He shall pay for this rude behavior, and what better way to discipline than static field. Take notes, bad parents. This is how you fix spoiled kids with low attention spans. Now he did annoy me with his cold V-shaped attack thing, but it was not that big of a deal in the end since unlike the Zon, it doesn't really bother my attack speed, and I killed him eventually with Fireball. After killing Bale though, I did some cow runs to get to level 30-ish. Also here, there are some decent chances to find some white items with high eye level, which is basically item level, which can get 4 sockets when socketed with Lazark, which is something I was particularly interested in, and therefore I got this crystal sword from here. With that, I made it to Nightmare. Here Rakanishu can be quite deadly, and yes, that is basically my euphemism for saying that I almost died to him, lol. Mainly because I have poor lightning resistance, and his charge bolts are no joke. Physical damage can be honestly just as spoopy for this girl though, especially because of her bad hit recovery frames, thus making it easy for her to get chained up and taken down. This is why I wanted to be extra careful while killing Griswold, but taking him out and his crew got me a nice little reward in the form of a 4 open socket partisan, which will make a nice base for my insight for my mercenary. With that, I did a little bit of countess farming and then got to completing my final bit of gear, which I am here to show you right now. So my weapon is a spirit in a crystal sword. I got Lazar to get 4 sockets on this weapon, and man is this weapon dope. 2 to all skills and 31 FCR, which can go from 25 to 35, but this gets me to the 63 FCR breakpoint. Then is the huge faster hit recovery. With this and stealth, I have 90 faster hit recovery, which brings me over the 86 breakpoint, which is huge since it will help me immensely in my survivability. What's also huge is the amount of mana and health this thing adds. 44 to life and over 100 to mana. Undoubtedly the best budget rune word you can build, and pretty OP if you ask me. Then is some more standard stuff with Lore Helmet, which gives you those crucial +1 to skills and 30 lightning resistance with 10 energy. My amulet is actually really nice. It has 10 FCR with 11 cold res and 39 light res. This combined with the lore completely eliminates my lightning resistance problems that I was having before. Then again, the shield is pretty standard, with Ancient's Pledge in a large shield giving me 48 all resistances. Same with stealth. It's the bee's knees when it comes to cheap caster armors, 25 FCR and 25 FHR. It's as cheap and as good as it gets. My boots give me magic find. Sure, they have some run walk and a little bit of resistances as well, but the reason that they're here is for the magic find, since that is my girl's primary motive. One of my rings gives me 11 cold resistance, and my belt is Hisaru's, which gives me 20 to life and 20 cold resistance, which is also pretty nice. The other ring that I have on just gives me 12 magic find, which is pretty self-explanatory. And these gloves are pretty cool as well. They have 25 magic find and 27 fire resistance, which is 2 thumbs up in 1. With that, my res is actually looking fantastic with fire and lightning maxed out, and my life and mana pool are not too shabby either. For skills, as you can see, I have not specced into Meteor, even though I can. This skill honestly requires a lot of getting used to, and I mostly definitely want to use it at some point, just maybe not on this character. Maybe in a future like Meteor, Sork or whatever, but for now I think I will stick to pure Fireball, and with that I have maxed Fireball, and I have also maxed Fire Mastery to increase my fire damage. In cold skills, I have Frozen Armor and Frost Nova, which honestly speaks to the power of cold damage in this game. Even a fire sorceress like this girl right here can find use in them just for defenses. Anyways, the 3 lightning skills that I have are pretty obvious and straightforward: Static, Telekinesis, and Teleport. I have a few hard points into static, since the increased radius comes in handy when you have to whittle down fire enchanted mob packs so that your mercenary can finish them off. Speaking of the mercenary, he's wearing Berserker's helmet for the 25 fire resistance. Also, he has this plate mail, which is rare, and the only reason that this is on him is because it provides 2 to strength. It turns out that the partisan requires high strength, and my mercenary was literally 2 strength short from equipping it, and then I found this armor and it was like a match made in heaven. Then is the all important insight. This weapon is definitely overpowered. Check this. This thing does more damage than almost any other mercenary weapon that I can find at this point in the game. That's a little bit crazy. What's also crazy is the level 17 meditation aura. I rolled level 12 first, which is the worst you can get, and then I rolled level 17, which is the best you can get. But anyways, if you don't know, meditation aura provides you with insane mana regeneration, to the point where you don't even need a lot of mana potions anymore. See my point of this being OP? Well, whether you agree with that or not, I am sure we can all agree on one point, and that is that Andariel in Nightmare stands no chance against a Fireball Sorceress. She did kill my mercenary though, even though I tried my best to save him. My best wasn't good enough to save him though, but it was good enough to kill Andariel. Quite unfortunate that she didn't drop me a cool unique or anything, but to make up for it, Beetleburst in Far Oasis dropped me a Rattle Cage with 25% crushing blow. Mercenary, I hope you're ready to get decked out even more, I guess. Even if that wasn't enough, Dark Elder decided to follow up his super unique brethren and dropped me unique light gauntlets, Mage Fists. I mean, these are pretty much the ideal pair of gloves for a Fireball Sorceress. 20 FCR and +1 to fire skills. GG. Next I found a pretty nice rare ring from Fire Eye with 10 FCR and 26 lightning resistance. I can actually go for the 105 FCR breakpoint right now, but I will be sticking to my MF gear at least for a little while longer, and I don't think you can really blame me for that. Duriel fight was up next. Now I started this fight with Frost Nova and used Static Field on him, just like in normal, but he killed my mercenary this time, which was sad. While getting stronger as compared to normal, Duriel has also become tankier since he was not that easy to take down with Fireball. He was also threatening a lot with cold and physical damage in return. Also in this fight, I realized that I still had the Leaf Staff in my offhand, so I decided to give it some glory by finishing off the fight using it. As it turns out, the game really wants me to use 20 FCR gloves, since it is spoiling me with choices here by dropping Trang's gloves with 20 FCR and 30 cold res. Guess I'd better listen to the game and switch to the 10 FCR breakpoint, since it is asking me ever so nicely. In Act 3, the first thing I did was buy a Wand of Lower Resist from Ormus, since it comes in very handy to, lower the resist of enemies so that I could do more fire damage. Leaf Staff, I am afraid this is where I shall make my goodbyes. So, about that 105 FCR breakpoint. Yeah, it's fast. Fast to the point that most things can't touch you. Not talking about all things, but most of them. Yeah, we'll get to what I mean by that later on. For now, with this speed, I pretty much blitzed past Act 3 until Travincal. This is where things slowed down a wee bit since my mercenary died pretty easily here. I wanna say it was due to the Hydras, but it looked like a combination of that and this lightning enchanted council member that hurt his elemental side a lot. Taking revenge for him was not the easiest either, since one of the council members was cursed and the other was fire and cold enchanted, and thus I had to use lower res to damage them effectively. What's more, I wanted to kill him from a distance and avoid the explosion because, god, that did not look fun. Anyways, back to blitzing. Well, I learned a lesson in Endurance level 2. Well, I learned 2 lessons actually. One was that my map reading skills are horrible, but 2 was that no matter how fast you're going, dolls are always going to get you. Yeah, mercenary, buddy, you may want to stop acting like freaking Selena Gomez and think about keeping those hands to yourself, man. Trust me, you'll thank me for it later. For now, I reached Mephisto, and it was part 3 of Can I Save the Mercenary from the Boss Just Because I Want to challenge, and I was actually doing pretty well this time. 105 FCR static brought Mephisto down to his knees real quick, and thereafter I cursed him with lower resistance and started the Fireball Barrage. Unfortunately, his own barrage of elemental damage was too much for our boy Ilzan, and he died not long before the Demon of Hatred went down himself, dropping pretty much nothing of significance. Yeah, no wonder nobody likes him. Act 4 was a hard wake-up slap on my sorceress's face as it introduced fire immunes. That's right, not only were there a bunch of monsters that resisted fire damage here, I had to deal with straight up immune ones, like these Necro Warriors. Against them, all I could do is static field to whittle them down and then hope that my mercenary will take them out before the vice versa happens. And if you're looking at this and thinking, man, this must be hard, well, you can turn that up to 11 when we reach the Chaos Sanctuary. This place was like a balancing act for my Sorceress, as there were 3 kinds of monsters here that I had to deal with. First were these Necro Warriors, which were just fire immune, so I could not touch them at all, and I had to static them down and get my mercenary to get the kill afterwards. Then there were these Pit Lords, which have huge fire resistance, and therefore I couldn't just damage them straight up, so I had to use lower resistance and static field to kill them effectively. And finally were those floaty ghost thingies who were just annoying and sapped my mana, so I would be left there standing like an idiot. I don't know how, but somehow I managed to make it out of this place without dying even once. My mercenary died a couple times, since, well, the monsters here are pretty offensively strong, but my survivability can mostly be credited to Spirit and the huge faster hit recovery that it provides. Trust me people, you don't know how important it is until you find out how important it is. Anyways, with Diablo, I didn't even bother with the stupid keep the mercenary alive thingy because, well, mainly because I'm not dumb. However, the fight here was pretty easy, since his most powerful attack, that being the lightning hose, can't even touch me, and static field plus lower resistance plus fireball was enough to finish him off. He dropped me a pretty cool unique as well, that being the battle hammer, which is the earth shaker. This thing has huge damage and +3 to elemental skills. Nothing that my sword can use, but if anything, this shows that we're at a point where I can store stuff like this that I find for my future characters. Super cool. Back with the Sorceress though, it was Ancient's time. Against them, I did not want to repeat the mistake of not using static field, and thus I rectified that and got rid of 1/3 of their HP right away. They were all mercilessly going after my mercenary, and thus I had to teleport him away, and in the process I ended up separating Madoc from the others. Unfortunately, he himself was enough to take down my mercenary, but I managed to kill him in return with lower resist and fireball. The rest of the 2 were a similar story. Lower resist and fireball while walking away from them was the plan that I executed here, and that was because I did not want to take any of the heavy damage that these 2 guys dish out. Korlik went down first, and Talix died spinning out of control, evidently, after a whirlwind. That's unfortunately the end of the good news for my fire sorceress though. Yeah, the throne room really started off with a huge struggle, since fire damage at this stage was just not cutting it, especially against pit lords. Also, God forbid if these spawn with something like Doom Knights or Souls, since neither you nor your mercenary can do anything about them. I reset the rolls and got a pretty empty throne next time. Even still, killing the first wave is a pain, since you obviously can't even touch Colenso, but the mercenary takes care of that generally. The real problem starts at wave 4. You can see how much work I have to do here. Frost Nova, static field, keep my mercenary alive, use lower resistance, and then finally use fireball to take these guys down. Oh yeah, and they resist fire naturally. Doing these several times during a magic find run does not seem like a fun idea at all. Oh, and if you thought that was bad, oh boy, get ready to meet Lister. I was almost done with the idea of even staying as a fire sorceress at this point, but I wanted to give it one last shot, so I respecced into Mass Meteor and Fireball to the point where Meteor showed 5k theoretical damage and Fireball did 1.5k. Even with that, This is lower resist meteor damage against the Lister pack, and you can see how effective it is against them. Look man, don't blame me, blame Blizzard for making fire resistances of so many monsters so dang good. I tried, but I guess this is as far as fire damage is going to take me. I mean, we were entering the Magic Find stage of the Sorceress anyways. It is only fitting that we spec into Mass Blizzard at this stage, which was the plan all along, more or less. With Blizzard, yeah, the Lister that seemed unkillable suddenly melts before my own eyes within seconds. It honestly is crazy how good cold damage and just the overall skill of Blizzard is at this stage of the game. With that, I went to take out Bale, and the Sorceress is excellent at killing bosses, as we have all seen very well. With Static Field and Blizzard, it isn't too much of a surprise that she can kill Bale rather quickly, which is very essential while magic finding. Bale dropped me a nice rare ring in the first run with 10 FCR and some cold res. I won't be using that right now though, since I will be dropping down to the 63 FCR breakpoint to use some of my Magic Find gear. With that, the first good drop I got from my Magic Find runs was from Bale, and it was a Set Canter trophy. Don't think I've ever found this in my life, Trangul's Wing. 2 to poison and bone skills with fire and poison resistance, and it just so happens that I know a potential poison necro who might appreciate this a lot. Now while doing these Bale runs, cold immunes are present in the throne room as well, and they are annoying, but these I can deal with decently with my mercenary and teleporting on top of them to take them out. What's more, they can even drop you Lycander's Aim. This bow is pretty amazing for a Bozon, with +2 to bow and +2 to Zon skills, with lots of physical damage. Too bad it's so slow that I will probably never end up using it anyways, but I'll still keep it. Next I found Milabrego's Shield. This is a good find for now, I guess, while I'm magic finding, since it gives just that, 20% better chance to find magic items. Unfortunately, that was all the good finds I got from Bale, so from here I moved on to Cows to hopefully find a Lum rune for my mercenary so that I can make him a smoke armor. Instead, I ended up finding Razor Switch, which is the unique Joe staff. This thing gives +1 to skills, 30 FCR and 50 all res, and a lot of life and mana. Very cool item, but it falls just short of the current combo I have, simply because Spirit is just very OP and it adds more skill points, and that FHR is extremely valuable for my Sorceress. Next one, I found a unique amulet, that being Crescent Moon. Yeah, not much to say here. This is absolutely useless for my purposes, but might fit on other certain melee builds who need a little bit of life and mana leech. Finally, the game listened to me and dropped a rune that rhymed with Lum. It's just a shame that the game missed it by an L and gave me an rune instead. Well, this changes things. Kinda. Well, with that, it was time to start Hell, and my gear hasn't changed a lot, except that it has a little bit. Let me explain. So let's go over the things first that are the exact same as before. Spirit Sword. Like I mentioned before, I found a Razor Switch, but the reason that I stuck with the Spirit is the additional skill point it provides and the 55 faster hit recovery, which is vital for my survival. If this was vanilla single player, I would totally be over that Razor Switch. And that's kind of the quote-unquote bad thing about ladder-only rune words, is that they just make a lot of cool items like that not as useful as they would be in single player. Next thing that is also the same from earlier is Stealth. This is crucial for my Sorceress at the moment, since I am at the 105 FCR breakpoint, and this adds the 25 FCR that I need to get there. A replacement for this, which I would love to find, is a Viper Magi, but I obviously have not found one yet. Another replacement for this, plus my current shield, which is still the Ancient's Pledge, would be a Smoke Armor and a Spirit Shield. But for that, I would need a White Monarch, so we'll get to it when we find that base. My amulet is the same as well. As soon as I identified it, I knew this could be endgame equipment simply because of how crucial that 39 lightning resist is, especially with 10 FCR. So yeah, really good stuff. Now for the new things. I have a circlet with +2 to cold skills, pretty straightforward. Found this off of Nightmare Bale actually, and that's why I didn't even have to bother gambling at Anya this time. Next up are my boots that are super rare and valuable. Oh man, look at these. 23 cold res. GG boys, GG. Nah, but seriously, I needed the resistance and it helps out that Charcy sells these pretty easily to help out in hell. My rings are both 10 FCR and they have lightning and cold resistance respectively. Since I have so much lightning and cold resistance stacked from jewelry, I decided to swap my belt and to give me more fire resistance here, and Saigon's does the trick. It also provides me with 4 rows of mana as compared to Hisaru's, which is also crucial while teleporting around with 105 FCR. Finally are the gloves which help me reach that breakpoint, them being Trangs. I was using Mage Fists for the +1 to fire skills, and now I don't have fire skills, so I have switched to these for the cold resistance that they provide. Speaking of my resistances, yeah, they're not that great actually. Fire and lightning can definitely do with some upgrades, but honestly, it could be a lot worse, and if nothing else, it is workable with in hell. As for skills, I have no fire skills as mentioned. In lightning, I have 1 in the 3 basics of teleport, telekinesis, and static field. Then we get to the good stuff in the cold tree. So as you can see, this is a pure Blizz Sorc, so I have maxed out Blizzard and Ice Blast and Glacial Spike, which give damage synergy to Blizzard. I will be using Blizzard and Ice Blast primarily as attacks since they do the most amount of damage. Then there is Cold Mastery. So you want to get this to the point where it cuts the cold resistance of the enemies down to -150%. That's because most of the monsters in hell have 50 cold res, and thus with -150 you can get them down to -100 resistance, which is the lowest it can go. Thus, as you may imagine, above 150 cold mastery has severely diminishing returns, so that's where I would like to get this skill at. Cold mastery doesn't affect cold immunes though, that's where my mercenary comes into play. Now he's wearing a smoke armor in a Templar coat. I know I alluded to the fact that I might do something with that rune, but I changed my mind once again since I found 3 IO runes, so I transmuted them up and just stuck this on him since I mostly value his survivability more than anything at the moment. He is also wearing an undead crown, which is really nice because of the 5% lifesteal it provides. Yeah, the 50% poison res and half freeze duration is nice as well, but the lifesteal is why it is on him. Finally, he is using the insight in a partisan because insight is awesome, and till now I haven't found a better base for it. I would not mind sticking a better damaging weapon on him later on when I would really need his cold immune killing expertise, but for now this will do the job rather nicely. A bad example of how nicely the insight will do the job is the Den of Evil against Corpse Fire. The reason for that is not only are these zombies cold immune, but they're undead as well, which means that they take less physical damage from my mercenaries' attacks, whose damage is not that spectacular in the first place, as we mentioned. So yeah, this took a while. There was a lot of teleporting around and using static field. See, the problem is he can't face them all at once. He's just not strong enough. So I had to teleport around to single out zombies and just had to use static field and wait around for the mercenary to, oh my god, finally he got a kill. But like I said, this is a pretty rare scenario, and the fact that I was even able to get through says a lot in itself. Plus, the good thing is that going pure blizzard means that the things that I can kill, I kill with a lot of damage, and the Countess Tower is a good example of this. None of the elites that spawn here are naturally immune to cold, and thus you can kill every single one of them with ease since you just do so much damage. The Countess, however, is always fire and cold immune, and that's why your mercenary will have to do the job against her and her minions. It's not that bad if you just want to do it for the one time for the quest, but doing this over and over again will be a pain since her minions will probably just kill your mercenary if you're not careful, and thus Countess farming on this girl is kind of out of question. What is also out of question are Andariel's chances of surviving this next fight. To be fair, she does have a pretty good chance of killing my mercenary, since that's just what she does. Here too though, no elite pack was cold immune and thus my Sorceress had an easy time. Against Andariel I used Lure Resist, Static Field and Blizzard in that order, and she got nuked pretty quick. What's more, my mercenary didn't even die. 50 poison risk from Undead Crown, OP. Act 2 is pretty kind to the Sorceress as well, since most of the stuff here is lightning immune and thus you can kill a lot of boss packs easily. This act also houses the infamous ancient tunnels, and something tells me that this girl would be spending a lot of time down there. On my first run though, I found a pretty good find in the form of a white thresher, since I can hopefully socket this thing to get a new insight for my mercenary. Thus I put in the required runes and a perfect amethyst, but unfortunately got 5 sockets instead. Unfortunate, but still not discard worthy, since I can still make obedience in this, which will give my mercenary crazy enhanced damage and crushing blow. Of course, for that I would need a Ko and a Fal rune, but I could farm those from LK chests later on. For now though, I went to the Snake Temple, which is a very scary place since snakes here are brutal and cold immune as well. They deal a lot of damage, and a Holy Freeze or a mercenary did make my life a lot easier here while teleporting. Unfortunately for me, Fangskin was literally waiting for me in the Amulet pit when I arrived at level 2. I reset the map and he turned out to be there again, and thus began my slow journey of getting my mercenary to kill them all. Spoiler alert, it actually worked. Pog. However, it did take a lot of time, and my mercenary took a lot of damage and rejuvenations along the way. Still, the fact that it worked has left me in awe. What a legend, Ilzan. The amulet has been retrieved, and it is only because of him. From there, the rest of Act 2 went by in a flash, and it was time for Duriel. I started off with the usual lure resist and static field treatment. My legendary mercenary was unfortunately not able to survive, but that's not too bad since Duriel died to pretty much only 3 blizzards, I think. I guess that's because they're just that dang powerful. He dropped Ginther's Rift and Cathin's Ring, both items which are pretty garbage, but that's just the Diablo 2 we all know and love, ain't it? Now I generally give Act 3 a bad rep, but I was pretty excited for it this time since I will be LK farming here a lot. And then all of my excitement got sapped out by these guys. Yeah. You see, most of Act 3 is filled up with lightning immune flares, And the word that you should focus on in that sentence is most. These little buggers that are cold immune also roam around in this jungle, and they can sneak up to you in no time and leave you laying on your back. A similar thing happened in Flare Dungeon as well, as this boss's minions were all cold immune flares, whereas all the other in this dungeon had been lightning immune. I learned my lesson though next time and just thought it was better to take the brain and not screw around too much. Ah, who am I kidding? Die, you asswipe! Die! Okay, now very good. After I got that, I went to LK and I planned to farm a lot here. I didn't really seriously magic find / rune find at the beginning of Hell. There were a lot of things that I wanted from here. Thus, I put the players on 8 and started running this place. One of the things I was looking for here was to build an obedience for my mercenary, and for that I found a core rune, which was rather nice. Next, there was a long stretch of me just resetting LK spots because I wanted a weapon rack to drop a mercenary weapon or an armor stand to drop monarchs. This is the role that I settled up with in the end, and it has the former, a weapon rack that dropped cryptic axes. While I was settling in, I found an rune here, which was rather nice. Don't really need this at the moment, but I'll take it. Next, I found a circlet with +3 to cold skills, which was an instant replacement for my current one, which had +2 to cold skills. A foul rune dropped for me next, which was the other rune that I needed for an obedience for my mercenary. Next, a pull rune dropped, which was, I don't know, cool, I guess. Finally, I found a 4 open socket cryptic axe from the weapon stack so that I can give my mercenary a stronger insight. I also got a 5 open socket cryptic axe from there, and in that I built an obedience for my mercenary. This weapon is pretty crazy as well, much like the other bladder only rune words. It has a chance to cast enchant, crazy enhanced damage, 40% crushing blow, and all resistance, and with that, my mercenary will definitely become an offensive powerhouse. I also got him a new insight later on, since the meditation aura is super helpful while teleporting. Then I went back to LK and reset again a bunch of times. I cannot stress this enough. I spent the whole day LK farming till I finally found an item stand where I found a white monarch. This probably was not even the most optimal way to farm this base, and if you guys have any suggestions, do let me know, but do know that I'm a pure Blizzard Sorceress, and therefore I couldn't just farm the pits or whatever. Therefore, I took it to Lazark and got 4 sockets in it and put in Tal, Thol, Ort, and Am. Or at least, I thought I did, but actually I just ended up building this instead. Look man, like I told you, I had been farming LK all day for that Monarch base and was just really tired, so I got a Hell Rune later and fixed this thing, don't worry about it. With that, my gear update was complete, and here are the changes that I have made. Most of my gear is still the same, the only 2 changes are the Spirit Shield. Yeah, this is awesome because of the additional +2 to skills, the FCR, and the res that it provides. Also, additional FHR is never bad, and this will allow me to ditch the Spirit Sword for better weapons, shall I encounter them in the future. The FCR also allowed me to ditch my stealth armor, and for now I am wearing my mercenary smoke. The only downside about this switch is that since this armor is super heavy, I run so freaking slow, but the trade-off is worth it, IMO, considering that it improves my res, which I'll take any day. My mercenary is wearing a duress to get that additional 15% chance of crushing blow, especially when he's not wielding obedience, like right now, where he's just using his new insight inside of that cryptic axe. Thanks to my new gear, my res is a lot better now, and thanks to those additional plus skills, my damage has improved by almost 1,000, which is huge. Those plus skills and res are also going to be tested in the Mephisto fight, but not really. See, this is the beauty of the Blizzard Sorceress and how easily you can run Mephisto, since you can just stand on this platform that is opposite to him, and Mephisto can damage you here, while you can kill him with Blizzard pretty quickly. This is a great and reliable way to get some quick magic find runs, and since it is Mephisto, that too Hell Mephisto, he can drop some pretty cool stuff. Didn't drop anything here though, so I decided to do some magic find runs, just for funsies. In the few runs that I did, I probably did like 10 or something. I found, first of all, a string of years, a pretty nice one too, with perfect damage reduction, and I guess the worst possible life leech. But whatever, it's still super good for a melee character. Also excellent for a melee character was this next drop. Unique war boots, them being Gore Riders. 15% crushing blow and 15% deadly strike. That, my friends, is a good find. Then I found a set amulet, which is also excellent for melee builds, Angelic Wings. Of course, I was hoping that it would be Tal's, but honestly, this thing has eluded me more than Tal's has, so I guess I'll take it. I had to stop magic finding now because this thing can get you like a goddamn gambling addiction. Plus, I'll be returning here soon anyways. For now, it was time to go down to the River of Flame. Here no monster spawned with cold immunity, and thus I could just blizz away to my heart's content. Unfortunately, Mephisto the Hammer Guy had to spoil the mood by being cold immune himself. I was quite scared of him, so I dragged him all the way near to the waypoint. This way I could resurrect my mercenary if he died to him, and he did die to him a fair bunch. The problem with him is that he could definitely do with some more life leech and maybe some damage reduction. I mean, he was hitting Mephisto, but was getting hit back a lot and not leeching back that much. At that point, I guess the game was just like, ask and ye shall receive, and it just handed me a Wamp Gaze. A very nice one too. 8% lifesteal and 18% damage reduction. GG boys, GG. That Wamp Gaze honestly came in at a very good time too, since next up was the Chaos Sanctuary, where the men are separated from the boys. Here the main threat were the Oblivion Mages, which provided a lot of headache to my previous Sorceress build, which had Orb plus Nova. The reason for that is that they're cold immune and they don't really take a lot of elemental damage, but thankfully my Mercenary dealt physical damage. Therefore he was able to deal with them, but barely. I almost always had to make sure that enemies that were not cold immune didn't get in his way so that he had a clear path to the Necromages. It also should be noted that I put that obedience I built for him on him because his damage output was way more important at this stage than the mana regen from Insight. Like I mentioned before, the enemies that were not cold immune were not even concerning to me, since those I could obliterate with Blizzard, and yes, that included the Infector of Souls. That's the benefit you get when you focus on only one skill, kids. The disadvantage is that you can't even touch guys like Decice. That is still manageable though, especially since his minions are fire immune, and thus you can take them out quickly. And after that, Decice is not nearly that intimidating. Thus, your mercenary can then take his time bullying him around. As for Grand Vizier, yeah. It is funny how this playthrough is coming full circle. The early part of the playthrough reminded me of my Zon because how weak she was, and now this part of the playthrough follows suit by showing me how one-dimensionally strong she can be. Oh yeah, this one can nuke bosses just like the Zon as well. I gosh dang love it. I'm thankful that most of my weaknesses that come from my one-dimensional nature get covered by my mercenary. I mean, just look at him go here against Shank's minions. Man, our boy Ilzan has come a long way since Nightmare Act 2. He's a strong, independent merc that don't need no healing potions. All he needs are targets to eliminate. What a stud. Coming back to the analogy though, remember how with my Zon, Nilithak kept spawning lightning immune so I couldn't kill him? Well, I think you can guess what immunity he loved spawning with this time. What a surprise. Thankfully, it only took 3 tries to kill him, and I knew that since it only took 1 blizzard to make him evaporate. Didn't even have to check his immunity or anything. Alright now though boys, next was Ancient's time. Now this is probably the scariest fight in the game, period. And my game plan going into this was to separate the 3 dudes. 105 FCR comes in really handy here since you can outrun anything with this much speed. Now, it is crucial here that nothing other than Corlake is cold immune and that Corlake is not physical immune. Otherwise, you'll just have a bad time. Here Talik chose to be my first victim, and while taking him down, I had to make sure that my mercenary survived more than anything. That was actually pretty easy though, all things said and done, since all I had to do was use lower resist plus blizzard, and Talik was incredibly well behaved here. Don't think he even whirlwinded once. He did scare me with that teleport, but I'll take it. Next up I got Corlake separated, which was great since this is what I needed my mercenary for the most. Now Corlake honestly is the lamest ancient of the 3, IMO, but he can hit like a truck, especially if he rolls extra strong. Thankfully here he was cold and fire enchanted. I kept using telekinesis here to try to knock him back, but that actually didn't seem to work. Thankfully Ilzan didn't need that anyways and sealed the deal on his own. After that, Maddock was easy. I could have killed him on my own since I had made sure that he was not cold immune, but just for bragging rights, I tried to keep my mercenary alive for the ride as well. The fight went honestly way better than I had anticipated, and I gotta say, I'm pretty content with it. My throne room was pretty contentment worthy too. Now yes, there were cold immune broomstick men, and that too a lot of them, but it was nothing that I couldn't handle. Their fire attacks were honestly hurting my Sorceress more than my mercenary, which honestly I was fine with, since he was the star of this show, and as long as he could do damage, everything was a-okay. It could have been a lot worse, and you know this. Souls, dolls, or a combination with some cold immunes would have been a nightmare, and this was still done with relative ease. Similar were the waves. Wave 2 have the first set of guaranteed cold immunes. They aren't much of a problem though, since the bigger guys you can just take out first using Blizzard pretty quickly. Next, these mages can be handled by a mercenary. Now their ice bolts actually do a surprising amount of damage, so caution is advisory, but they're super frail themselves, so killing them is just a matter of teleporting on top of them and letting the mercenary get only 1 hit off after static field. The rest of the waves were all easy as pie, including Might Aura Lister. Dang, the Bliss Sorceress is strong. I mean, if I get no cold immunes in the throne, I could easily do Hell Bale runs with this girl, a feat that not many of my characters can achieve. Anyways, this Bale run and this mini playthrough is coming to an end, but my time with this girl certainly isn't. Although I had fun in this mini playthrough, I am still going to be using her, and like I mentioned before, she is going to be my full-time magic finding character for the other characters that I want to find cool stuff for. As soon as this video is done, I'm going to get straight on finding some awesome stuff with her, and the next mini playthrough that you can expect from me is going to be a summary of all my cool finds, so get pumped up for that. Or don't. I don't own you. But I do hope that you find this content riveting. Yours truly, with love.